All right, so now why is that a problem in the gut microbiome? So number one is they disrupt inflammatory pathways. All right, these protein powders are often, they're not just protein, they are usually added to, they have guar gum and Xanax gums and emulsifiers. And in having those added to them, those elements in the protein powders are linked to a breakdown of the mucosal lining in your gut, okay? That is a major health problem because that is kind of the gateway of things that should not be let into the inner sanctum and then into the bloodstream and carried all over your body. That mucosal membrane has to have integrity, and these protein powders have been shown to facilitate breaking that down.
Hi, welcome to the Judy Terrell Show, where I explore topics intended to optimize every body 50, 60, 70, and above.
Hi everybody. If you follow me or work with me, then you know I am not anti-protein. But what I am is anti-quick fixes and hacks that are going against the biology and the nature of this vehicle, this amazing vehicle of which we live in. All right. And so I'm going to address protein powders. And I know right now protein powders, they're having their moment and they're being, endorsed by leading, medical researchers that are putting out books and information for us to consume and follow. They are being endorsed by every influencer that's out there. There's tons of recipes using protein powders to boost the protein amount because now everybody's trying to get at least their body weight in protein grams per day. And in trying to do that, they're buying up the protein powders, okay? So I want to present an alternative, or at least an educational, and enhance your education on protein powders, why I am not an advocate for them for people who are trying to lose weight. Please hear that, because I do advocate for them for other subpopulations when necessary. But for people who are trying to lose weight and for people who want to line up with the biology of this amazing body, I do not recommend the protein powders. And let me tell you 3 main reasons why. All right? Are you with me? Okay. Reason number 1. Protein powders in the research studies, and I'm going to give you something else you can see on social media with people who are promoting them, but hold that thought for a second. In the research, in the observational studies, let's say that, people who are using protein powders, they have a higher level of gut dysbiosis in their colon, in their large intestine. All right? Why is that? So, protein powders are processed, highly ultra-processed foods. They've gone through a chemical procedure, a heating procedure, and then they are reduced down to components out of their original, source. For instance, whey came from milk, okay? Casein came from eggs. Pea protein powder came from peas, okay? So they are not in their natural state, even though they might say 100% all natural on them, okay? They were taken from a natural source, but they've been altered. And now they're highly consolidated, but not without the fiber or the other, components that would go with chicken when you're eating chicken versus, amino acids in a protein powder taken from, a source. All right. So now why is that a problem in the gut microbiome? So number 1 is they disrupt inflammatory pathways. All right. These protein powders are often, they're not just protein. They are usually added to, they have guar gum and Xanax gums and emulsifiers. And in having those added to them, those elements in the protein powders are linked to a breakdown of the mucosal lining in your gut, okay? That is a major health problem because that is kind of the gateway of things that should not be let into the inner sanctum and then into the bloodstream and carried all over your body. That mucosal membrane has to have integrity, and these protein powders have been shown to facilitate breaking that down, all right? So the protein powders, they also create an imbalance of the gut microflora, of which there's trillions of individual microorganisms and thousands of different strains, All right. And so when you're taking these highly concentrated forms of anything really, but in this case, protein powders, they will, they allow some of those strains that are naturally in us to overrun and proliferate at a higher level and then crowd out other ones that we need. And then there becomes a dysbiosis, and that has all sorts of long-term health problems. All right, so there's a variety of mechanisms that go on in the gut that are linked to using protein powders over whole food protein sources like chicken and eggs, tofu, quinoa, beans, for instance. And this is one of the reasons why, when it comes to weight loss, the last thing we need is a gut and a belly that's now like swollen out to here because of distension, because of a, problem going on inside. And I'm going to challenge you to look at influencers, leading influencers I follow and see on Instagram and the various social media that are promoting, protein powders and protein recipes. When they turn sideways, they often have like a pregnancy, like distorted kind of figure, right? It's not body fat, but there's this like bulge that's in their belly, and like they'll turn sideways and you'll see this, right? And then they'll hold their shirt up and they'll show you that there's no belly fat, but like there's a distension, all right? That right there is a outward indicator of what I am talking about, all right? And some people can have more of a reaction to that than others, but this is reason number one why I'm not an advocate of an ultra-processed food over a real whole food, and the protein powders in this case is what I'm talking about, okay? So that's reason number one.
When you have tried all the programs and done all the right things, and yet you still can't lose the weight that you are trying to lose, and you're a male or female over 50, now is the time for you to look into my program, Your Second 50.life. It includes online video support. You can download video and PDFs for an eating plan and exercise plan appropriate for over 50. It includes group support on a monthly basis, and perhaps even more importantly, it includes weekly individualized coaching specific to you. Having the generalized plan is a good thing. I have helped literally thousands of people to lose weight over the 43 years I've been in practice, and I'd like to help you too.
Okay, reason number two. Protein powders, and one of the reasons why I think they're really popular with us as consumers is because we can take them and drink them in the car, and they're expedient and they're fast, and they allow us to get those grams of protein that we're all, desperately trying to get in our everyday lives without having to actually eat food. But here's the deal. The protein powders, they're going to have the 20 grams of protein per scoop. And most of the time people add that in with like in a smoothie, and they're going to, emulsify berries and, some other maybe vegetables or whatever, and then drink in this purified, kind of pre-digested. The protein powder we already know is pre-digested because it's been ultra-processed, but then it'll be added to something or just put in the water and drank. But here's the deal. That blender and those processing plants have done the work of digestion. So that those protein grams go into your digestive system and they pass through really fast because our stomach doesn't have to churn to start to break it up. Our small intestine doesn't have to do the muscular contractions, and it goes through really fast. It gets immediately absorbed into the bloodstream, which is one of the reasons why it was so highly promoted when they first came out for bodybuilders and people who are trying to add more lean mass to their body. That quickness of, you're doing the workout, you're breaking down the muscle fibers, and then you've got the immediate, substrate for rebuilding. That was how protein powders came into vogue. All right. But now they're being used by people who are trying to lose weight as a meal replacement. And what happens is, again, going back to my second point here, it's a very fast gastric transport time. It doesn't require a lot of energy. It's pre-digested, so it's picked up by the bloodstream really fast. But what that means is that it doesn't stay in the digestive system for long. It doesn't keep you sated for long, and you're going to get some chemical messages now, hormonal messages, that says, hey, we don't have a lot of food in here. We're starting to get low, even though you just ate plenty of calories from that, protein drink you just had an hour ago. So let's eat again. You need to eat again, right? And that's when you'll get into now 1 handful of nuts as your mid-morning snack is now 3 handfuls of nuts, or, the all healthy trail mix that you keep in your desk drawer, right? And now you are over the calorie amounts because you took in a protein source that was very fast digesting. And you're going to be over calories for the day, and you're going to struggle with weight loss. And then you'll blame yourself for not having more willpower, all right? So point number 2 is these protein powders, they have very fast transit times, and that is the direct opposite, just FYI, of one of the mechanisms of these GLP-1 medications that we're taking to help us to lose weight and are being successful, at least for now, from a weight loss point of view. Those medications slow down gastric transport. It makes the food sit in your stomach, in your small intestine, and your colon for longer. And there's negatives attached to that. But the point I'm making here is, why would somebody who's trying to lose weight use a nutrition source that is the direct opposite, fast transport, to the medications that we're taking that are slowing down the transport so that we can successfully lose weight? Like, that to me makes absolutely no sense. All right. And so I want to educate you on the second reason why myself, as a programmer of nutrition programs and fitness programs and lifestyle as medicine programs, why I am not putting protein powders in my plans for the clients I'm working with who are trying to lose weight. Okay. All right. So that's point number 2. Here's point number 3. All right. And this is a biggie. The protein powders, most of them, many of them they taste good. They're like a milkshake. That's why people like them. They taste they're like a dessert, right? Because they taste sweet. All right. So a lot of them have 0-calorie sweeteners in them. Monk fruit, aspartame, sucralose, various sugar alcohols, stevia. In some cases, they actually have sugar, fructose or sucrose added to them, or cane juice, consolidated cane juice. So all of these things are very sweet tasting, and that's why we like them. Even if you get one that doesn't have a sweet taste to it, no one's drinking just the protein powder. They're then putting it into a smoothie where they've got fruit and berries and, bananas and, kiwi and whatever else is in vogue right now from the fruit as a natural sugar. And I'm not against that. But my point is, the protein powders are now being put together 99% of the time with a sweet flavor. All right. The overuse of sweet flavor, whether it be calories or not, is correlated with a increase of the dopamine, the need. So we're getting dopamine resistance in our brain. Dopamine is one of the neurotransmitters that makes us feel pleasure. But just like anything, there's an increase of tolerance as we start to use more and more things that we are taking in on a daily basis, not just protein powders, are sweet. We're taking gummies for our vitamin C and our melatonin, 25 calories per gummy and sweet, right? We're putting protein into protein shakes and then having sweet flavors. Our ketchup has 17 grams of sugar in 2 tablespoons. Starbucks coffee. I can give you unlimited examples. And even my clients who say, no, I don't eat sweet things, I really have cut it out, I can help. They're eating fruit like 5 times a day in their meals, and there's that sweet, an over intake of the sweet flavor. All right, so what? Who cares? Like, why is that bad? Why is it bad? Is because in the brain, when we are increasing the amount of sweetness on a day-to-day basis, and we're doing it by doing these protein powders, here for this video, my illustration, that's what I'm talking about, our brain dopamine goes into a little bit of resistance. And now it takes a little bit more to get the same, positive pleasure spill. And so now we are a nation that we're eating sweet things and we're eating things for pleasure, but we're not getting the same pleasure reaction. So now we have to have more of it, or we have to layer on 3 different sweeteners in one thing to get the same pleasure that we did in 1960 from just one sweetener. Okay. And what this equates to and falls under the umbrella of is what is called food noise. Food noise, okay? Again, this is one of the things that the GLP-1 medications are helping to arrest in some people, all right? This drive for like just needing like this constant thinking about food, the constant cravings for food, all right? Many of us, when the food noise I'm talking about, it's not like you're jonesing for broccoli, okay? It's this sweet taste, and it's getting masked by non-calorie, zero calorie sweeteners, as well as it is from, high fructose corn syrup and the things that most of the clients I'm working with know to avoid. All right. So the protein powders, to my point 3 of why I don't recommend them for my clients who are trying to lose weight, is they are, as you're desperately trying to control the amount of intake that you're putting into your body for the day, they're working to undermine that on the other side, because there's a growing amount of food noise in your brain from these sweetened protein sources. Protein powders added to cottage cheese to make a high protein snack, dessert, a greenwashed, I call it dessert, for instance. So 3 main reasons why my clients who are trying to lose weight, I do not put protein powders, and I am a staunch, advocate to not use them, at least while they're trying to lose weight, is to try and heal the brain from this dopamine resistance and bring that food noise down, heal the gut from the dysbiosis and the degrading of the lining, so that we don't have this distended, situation going on, which aesthetically looks terrible. And if you've got body fat on top of that, it makes you look like, a Pillsbury Doughboy or girl. And it is, it's not helping us to stay within the calorie budget for weight loss, because it goes through our system too fast. All right. And then we don't eat another meal, but we're grabbing at, some more of the fruit, or we're grabbing at a couple more handfuls of nuts, or any other things that, then we have a protein bar mid-morning because we had the protein drink that didn't satisfy us. And then we're trying to get to lunch, right? And this is how it goes. All right. So here, now towards the end here, I want to give you what are some real world examples. So I'm not an advocate of these protein powders. I'm an advocate of eat food and get the protein in, right? So for some snack ideas, I'll give you 2. The first one is Greek yogurt. 20 grams of protein in a non-sweetened plain Greek yogurt, and then throw in a handful of berries, and then throw in a handful of ground seeds or nuts. And there is a whole food, enjoyable, high protein snack. Another one that doesn't have any sweet, because that one had some sweet from the berries or other fruit you might put in there, is turkey breast cut into slices, and then a slice of avocado with some hummus, or a slice of avocado and a slice of sweet potato rolled up into a turkey roll-up, right? There's whole food protein with healthy fats. It's going to take a little longer to digest than a protein drink or a protein bar. And there's 2 snack examples for you for how to use real food, just as convenient or close enough. That doesn't take a lot of time. You do have to have the product, but you have to buy the protein powder too, right? And so, there are ways to use what's in harmony with this vehicle and the biology and physiology of it, and the, millenniums of evolution. We want to stay in harmony with this vehicle and not go out of it putting in, ultra processed greenwashed protein powders that are undermining us in multiple ways. All right, everybody, if you are somebody who wants to take more of a broad spectrum view and use lifestyle as their weight regulation main focus and for longevity and health, then follow me, because I'm your girl. And if you'd like to have access to some of my additional resources, I can be found at Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and on my website, www.judyterrell.com.